Welcome to The Pestle, reviewing and breaking down movies to look for insights into the movie-making process. Hosted by Nuclear Weapons, saving the world is always more dramatically fulfilling than just saving the girl. Let's dim the lights and start the show.
Welcome everybody to The Pestle. Today's show is brought to you by the Cavern of the Evil Wizard. Get the latest, hottest video game action on your PC with the wildly popular Cavern of the Evil Wizard. Available while supplies last. Welcome everybody to The Pestle. I am Wes.
And I am Todd.
And this is a podcast. If you didn't know you were listening to a podcast, that's what's happening. And what we do, as the lady said, is analyze, break apart movies to, figure stuff out. Yeah, and now TV shows a little bit more. And this has been pretty fun. Like, this is the second one, and we have a couple more after this. And it's been kind of a cheat code for us to get caught up and have a little backlog going because this year's been absolute garbage. But I feel like there's so much that I can learn, and as a filmmaker, as a writer, because we're mostly focusing on pilot episodes and also kind of showing, discussing a little bit where the show goes overall. But pilots are really, really difficult to do well because there's so much you're trying to do. You're trying to capture your audience because unlike a movie, right? A movie, you get in, you have someone's bought the ticket. You don't got to do anything the first 5-10 minutes, like other than hook them and make it pay off, 2 hours later. Whereas TV show, there's a lot of channels, man, especially back in the day when this came on. And it was really important to hook them right away and to keep them hooked through the first commercial break. That's a tall order. And so there's a lot of things you can learn about character development and, getting those stakes ramped up as quickly as possible that you can only really see in pilots. Because anything beyond a pilot, they start to try to get deeper into the story. But the first 5-10 minutes of every single pilot should be kind of your top guns coming out and really helping demonstrate what show you're trying to make. So this has been fun. I'm excited to keep doing a few more of these.
Yeah, same. Last week's was great. We did Cheers. That was a lot of fun. So spoiler alert, if you haven't seen the pilot of Friends or haven't seen Friends in general, pause this, go find it somewhere. It's hard to find unless you own it right now, and watch it because we're gonna give a few spoilers, of course. It's your warning.
For sure. And we'll talk about Friends and contrast it a little bit with Cheers. So if you want to go back and listen to our Cheers episode first as well, that might be a little illuminative. But if not, it's probably fine. I think for both of those shows, Friends and Cheers, you can probably watch any clip and have a general idea as long as you don't mind spoilers on these specific episodes, specifically Friends today. But we're going to talk about a few things. We'll talk about cinematography, editing, writing, and other such stuff and things and stuff.
And a quick synopsis, if you need it. The show Friends follows the personal and professional lives of 6 friends living in Manhattan, created by David Crane and Marta Kauffman, featuring Jennifer Aniston as Rachel Green, Courteney Cox as Monica Geller, Lisa Kudrow as Phoebe Buffay, Matt LeBlanc as Joey Tribbiani, Matthew Perry as Chandler Bing, and David Schwimmer as Ross Geller.
Come on, you can't live off your parents your whole life.
I know that. That's why I was getting married.
Give her a break. It's hard being on your own for the first time.
Thank you.
You're welcome. I remember when I first came to this city. I was 14. My mom had just killed herself, and my stepdad was back in prison. And I got here, and I didn't know anybody. And I ended up living with this albino guy who was cleaning windshields outside Port Authority. And then he killed himself. And then I found aromatherapy. So believe me, I know exactly how you feel.
The word you're looking for is... Anyway.
That's so there's a lot of really good moments I think in the pilot, but there's something about Phoebe going on so lightheartedly because normally, right, someone with a terrible backstory, they use it to kind of punch you in the face, to say that you don't have problems, I have problems. But here she's using a really horrible backstory as a way to relate to a completely trivial issue. it's the best use of that I've probably ever seen. And
Yeah.
Lisa Kudrow, I think, is probably the funniest and comedically talented, probably on the cast. But there's some amazing talents, and we'll get into all that. But what was I don't know how much you've seen of Friends and how recently you've watched it, but what was it like sitting down to watch the origin?
It was okay. I mean, I have seen Friends. I've watched, I mean, a ton of it. Probably, I don't know if I've watched every episode, but a lot of it. Anytime it was on, I would always watch it. Um, I do like how they established the exact, like, this is the character, right? For everybody. So everybody, you kind of, Chandler has the quick wit. Phoebe obviously is the kind of dim-witted but lovable person, and I love that they made it a girl.
Yeah.
Because they kind of also have another one in Joey, as the male side, but Joey offers the good advice for David, so he is does have like some good advice too for Ross, David Schwimmer. But then I do love how they established the kind of the sadness, the brokenheartedness of both Rachel and Ross, right? At the beginning, and then obviously that brings them together at the end. And it's a really good. I liked the ending, the whole I grabbed the spoon, referring back to when Joey gave him that good advice, to grab a spoon. So I do like the circular writing in that regard. It was a lot of fun. But this is what I was kind of getting at. I want to ask you. So this is one of your favorite shows, I think, right? I thought I remembered you saying it was one of your favorite sitcoms.
Not really. I think the first 3.5 seasons are brilliant. Like,
okay,
they're incredible. After that,
okay,
it loses so much steam that I have a lot of complaints that I will. Got a lot of problems with you people.
Okay. Well, I was gonna say, because I wanted to, I'm at kind of about a 6 on it, and I wanted to see if you could bring me up.
Oh,
Because a lot of times you have some good arguments on things that I kind of like look at as like, it's not really my style, and then by the time we're done talking, I like,
yeah.
you convince me that, oh, okay, it's not really 6, maybe it's an 8 or a 7 or something, and so I'm gonna put it on you to actually bring my number up. If you want to, if you don't agree with the 6.
My goal is to hopefully keep you at least at a 6. Like, I don't want you to fall further down.
Okay, there you go.
The whole
there you go.
that'll be a win for me, just because I do have some issues with the show. But overall, I would say, I mean, it is really witty. For me, growing up, I didn't get a lot of TV growing up. I watched mostly movies. I just didn't have cable television. What little TV we had was usually over the air. And so I just didn't have access to a lot of sitcoms. So the sitcoms I remember growing up were stuff like Night Court, Cheers a little bit, and I don't know, maybe a couple others that I'm struggling to even name. But Cheers was the first for me that serialized sitcoms. So like, Cosby's or Martin, these other sitcoms, Fresh Prince, these other sitcoms that I watched, it didn't really matter if you saw the previous episode or the previous 10. Friends, it really pays off to know what's been going on in their lives. And so the serialization of it made it so much more exciting to watch, because I knew I was hoping for a thing to happen, or expecting, especially those first few seasons, which I didn't see when it was airing. I didn't start watching Friends until I moved to Austin, like 6 years after this thing started airing on TV. So I was way behind the curve. But once I got caught up, I was like, yeah, I am excited to see where this goes next. And it was always there. They found a way to further the story while also, making it episodic. So you still had those episodic elements that made it self-contained, but also built on what happened, in the weeks prior. And so the writing really was, fantastic. My biggest issue is how sloppy they get with the comedy later down the road. Like this pilot wasn't a right hook. Like, I think it's still a very, 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 very good pilot compared to other pilots, not compared to what Friends ended up being. Because very few shows start off, with just the perfect episode that has everything nailed down, and it feels like you're already in season 2. Because if you even look at Joey, this isn't Joey's final form in any shape. Even within the first season, I feel like they start to transition him away from the cool hip guys. This feels like he's a Fonz in episode 1.
Totally.
He's way too cool for school. And we quickly find out that he's, the alter ego for Phoebe, right? He's a ditz on his own, and he's still very attractive, and the women love him and all that stuff that is kind of lurking there in the first episode. But he's not as cool as they make him out to be, like the whole leather jacket thing. But after right around 3.5 seasons, I don't know if that's a new switch in writers or just perspective. They just get really lazy. The wit is completely gone. And instead of wordplay, they go more towards these caricatures and these kind of over-the-top physical comedy stylings that I really have a hard time connecting
The turkey on the head?
Yeah, that kind of stuff. Exactly.
Yeah.
Like, that's just ham-fisted stuff that isn't what made it great, the first time. The first few seasons are great because the wordplay is there. The performances are all incredible. But that's built on largely, great writing. And to the credit of like a Rachel Green, Jennifer Aniston does so much with her lines that I think she is criminally underrated with her comedic chops. Like, the first episode doesn't really get to display it quite as well as, later episodes, but she is absolutely brilliant. Like, if you go watch the first even season, you'll really just pay attention to what she's adding to the scene. It's absolutely astounding. And she is incredible. She's right up there with Matthew Perry in terms of the ability to turn a line. But yeah, I don't know. I get it. I don't blame you for having a 6. If I was to grade the entire show, I'd probably be right around a 7. But if I'm watching the first 3.5 to 5 seasons, the one where to me, you can tell the exact moment when it falls is when Ross he goes overseas in London and marries the British chick. After that, it's a very sharp decline and everything. Ross becomes this shadow of himself. He becomes this mopey, whining thing that...
Dude, see, I'm so glad you said that, because it was weird watching this. I never liked Ross. I was always like, everybody's so good, but I freaking hate David Schwimmer. I've just always whatever. But watching this episode, I was like, I kind of like him, like he was funny. And that line he delivered, I think the word you're looking for, like right. The way that he actually said that word, what was the word? Was okay.
Anyway,
what was it? Anyway, was like, that was perfect delivery. And I loved it. I actually liked him in this episode. And I was like, yes, he won in the end. He grabbed the spoon. But I remember, getting into this show and just really not liking him as a character.
It sucks because he does go from this guy. And what's funny is, in both of those cases, in the case where we piloted and in the case where I think the show falls apart, where after his marriage to the British lady goes awry, those are very similar circumstances. He's having a failed marriage and he's struggling, to get the things that he wants. And yet the directions that they took in both of those circumstances are just completely veering away from him being a likable character.
Yeah.
Because you said, like, he was a little mopey here. And I love that the first line is that, hey, and Joey's response is that this guy says hi and I want to kill myself. like that's perfect. Yeah. It's like, cheer up, bro. And they use that as a kind of recurring joke in the first few seasons, which works really well. But if you want to keep him likable, you got to keep giving him goals and aspirations and courage. And it's when I think he runs out of courage to keep chasing those things that he wants, is when it really starts to just not click. And I blame the writing on that. I think one of the other great things, and you can see this in Friends and Cheers, is you introduce someone new to the group, right? In Cheers, that was Diane Chambers. And here in Friends, it's Rachel Green is joining, and so that's an easy way to kind of frame our perspective on and add exposition to who these people are. Like Phoebe literally gives us her backstory, and that's just an easy way because she doesn't know Rachel, and now these two characters got to get to know each other. So we're getting backstory on everyone to a light degree, and they use that to keep, furthering the story out as the season unfolds. But the other common theme with introducing a new character between Cheers and Friends is there's a love interest there. There's this, sudden, oh, now we're hooking the audience with a love connection. Like we want to see these two characters hit it off. And that's something that anticipation, right? You want your audience to anticipate something. And they set that up really nicely whenever they show Ross. And I love the blocking of that scene where he's kind of hiding away underneath the, I don't even know what those are, those shutters in the window, those flaps. He's kind of just tucked away inside the flaps. And he makes his comments like, who would I even ask out? And he looks out the window and they do this cross dissolve to Rachel. And this is a rarity on the show. For one, it's useful, and I'm glad they did it, to kind of establish the link between those two so that when you get to the end of the episode and Ross is talking about how much he was in love with her and that he wants to ask her out, and then kind of chickens out a little bit, but maybe gives us a little hope.
Okay.
Yeah, that's okay. It's like he's still working through stuff, and he grabbed a spoon. And that makes us really excited about, oh, there's something here. And anytime you can build anticipation, that's a really good feeling. But you see that in Cheers too. And so that common ground of let's establish a love line that we can press on the audience and get people really excited. But the thing with that transition where we go to break without a laugh, we go to break on just music. Friends does not do that at all. I would say very, very, very few moments in Friends are comfortable with silence and with emotional moments. And largely to their benefit, like the Phoebe backstory, they're really good at undercutting and using these tense moments as a method to insert comedy. And that's fine. I think that's really okay. Personally, my taste is I also like emotional moments. I like the full, roller coaster of ups and downs, and I'm okay with sitting in a sad moment or sitting in an uncertainty. And Friends is not. Like, that's primetime comedy, and they're like, no. We need to laugh. We're gonna do the 3 laughs a page, every page. And
I think, and to the point about, I'm glad they had that connection, and I'm really glad that he didn't ask her out right there. I mean, it had been a day since she left that guy at the altar, and
right.
but still, even like, it still felt really fast to me, even though he didn't ask her out or whatever. It still was like, really? Like, it had only been like 24 hours and you're saying yes to being asked out on, like, I feel like writing wise, I don't know, everybody's different, and maybe somebody would be down with that, but maybe a better response writing wise would be ask me later or something, like something else, like not a no, but not a right now,
true,
kind of thing.
Yeah.
But I know it's a sitcom, and
I think the reason that it works, because it works for me, to a large degree, especially if I don't stop and think about it the way, human beings will in a real situation like that. But I think the reason it works is we never see Barry, so we don't feel any obligation to this guy.
Good point.
And then we also see that she's unhappy. This isn't just I got the jitters, but she was really unhappy with her life to the point that she moved cities, and she clearly has no intention of going back. Like, she has the phone call with her dad. And so we get a really good sense that she just didn't love this guy who looks like Mr. Potato Head. And that moment is a little bit of hope for her. And I think that's the other reason that we like that moment, is because we see her finally kind of be excited about the prospect of love, instead of feeling like, I was marrying for all the wrong reasons. I was marrying because this is what was expected of me. This was a doctor and kind of a comfortable lifestyle instead of something I'm passionate about. And whenever we see that kind of turn on its head, we're like, you know what? Yeah, I like this.
I can see that.
Yeah.
I can see that. I didn't think I did think about not seeing Barry the whole time while I was watching it, but I forgot about that moment.
Yeah.
Or forgot about that while I was saying that. So yeah.
Right. But yeah, and that's the kind of the benefit of a 20-minute show, right? Is they don't really give us time to think about those kinds of things, like especially because they point it out in the episode, and I think that helps diffuse that bomb. Is they acknowledge that it's not okay to hit on a bride on her wedding day.
Yeah.
And so just by addressing it, it kind of takes the weight off of our shoulders as viewers and feeling like, yeah, they're being delicate about all this, on a subconscious level at least. Dang, yeah. The only two things I really have left are cinematography and editing, because we pretty much already touched on the writing and story stuff. The thing that kind of surprised me is, especially the first maybe half of the show, like the first 5 seasons. This is like 10 seasons, I think. It's very dark. Like the lighting is,
yes, it is
really dark, surprisingly so, and it's also very high contrast, which I don't think you get a lot of in sitcoms. Sitcoms are normally bright, and in this case, I think the darker lighting and the higher contrast kind of added to the drama and to the idea that this is New York, and New York is a little bit harder of a city, and so maybe they're trying to play into that, stylistically a little bit. The thing that really hit me over the head a while back, whenever I think Netflix was first released Friends, I don't know, 4 or 5 years ago, I was really shocked because I hadn't watched Friends in ages at that point. I was so surprised at the camera movement. Like, there's constant panning and tracking, dollying, zooming in, zooming out, reframing. And I was just like, whoa, the cinematography of Friends is amazing. And it never stops. Like, from the first episode until the very end, they nail it. They absolutely crush the cinematography in a way that very few other sitcoms do, except Cheers. And again, I'm no sitcom buff, so if you want to throw out like Taxi or some other show, maybe. I'm not saying there's no other show that, from my frame of reference, no other show really does it the way Friends does. And Cheers, though, almost the exact same style. And what was surprising whenever I was looking up kind of the notes after Cheers was James Burrows, who directed almost all of Cheers, also directed the pilot for Friends.
No.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
So that blew my hair back. I was
That's
like,
crazy.
That makes so much sense. That really helped me understand. And it's important because as a director or a cinematographer, you get to set, if you're shooting the pilot, you really set the style for the entire run of the show.
Yeah.
Like, there's very few pilot episodes that aren't chased immediately with the same styling as the follow-up episodes. I think House is the only exception off the top of my head that I've ever seen do a dramatic change from episode 1 to 2. Everything else follows very, very hard. Like, if you go watch...
That makes me want to go watch House now.
Right. That's an amazing show. And watch Breaking Bad, watch whatever. Like, those first 1 or 2 episodes will set a style that's going to be the style guide for everyone that comes after. And so that's one of the reasons why I don't know that I would ever want to direct a TV show unless it was the first, like the pilot.
Because then you're pigeonholed, right?
Yeah, I don't feel like I have the kind of tools unless you're as big as a Ryan Johnson, who, if you go watch the Ryan Johnson episodes of Breaking Bad, you'll see him pull some cards out that aren't in the rest of the series. Like, he'll do some fun things.
Oh, imagine that.
Right. But you only need to be like, producing blockbusters, to pull that card.
Wait, that guy did a couple episodes of Breaking Bad. Let's let him direct all of the 3 Star Wars, whatever. I'm a little bitter.
Same. And so directing and creating the pilot really gives you so much leverage to do whatever you want, and to you're kind of beholden after that. The other thing I noticed about this was how colorful it is. Even though it is darker and there is a higher contrast, there's a lot of colors going on in the show, like the purple apartment walls, the green doors. Obviously, Ross has like a bright red shirt on, and a lot of the decor around the apartment has a lot of colors popping. And so it's still kind of keeping in the ethos of Friends and, you know, merriment, and they're just doing this amalgamation of all these stylings with the cinematography and the lighting, the contrast, and the bright colors. It kind of pulls it all together in a way that says this is Friends, and any frame you watch, you could watch any frame and say, oh yeah, that's Friends, probably without even seeing the characters in it, because it's so distinct. And those are the kinds of things that really add a lot to that styling. And of course, with editing, there's something that happens in here, and I'll get to it in like 10 seconds. But one thing that we've talked about before is the magic of an establishing shot. They use all these establishing shots of New York City, of an apartment building in New York City, as a way to trick you into thinking they are actually in New York City, when in fact they're on a soundstage in Los Angeles. And that's always one of those kind of mind-blowing things that the first time you hear it is like, oh, wait, they're not in New York City. Because that's how well it works. You really believe they're in New York. And all you got to do is rent a B-roll team to go up there and shoot, you know, for 2 days. And now you have a season's worth of opening shots and establishing shots that fool the client or the viewer into thinking a thing. The thing with the sound mix, which I kind of inserted into the editing, is their use of the laugh track. Now, I'm pretty sure they film in front of a live studio audience, but I believe they also really use a laugh track for certain moments. Now, I wouldn't say they overdo the laugh track in the sense of timing, but they do use it, I think, too much in terms of EQ. And it's one of those things that every time you have to turn up the volume because the characters are talking at, I don't know, like a minus 12 dB.
Yeah.
And so you turn up your volume to make that normal for wherever your living room is. But what they also do is they insert the laugh track at like a minus 3 dB.
Mm-hmm.
And so the laughing
way too loud,
so much louder. And it's one of these little editing tricks to get the viewer to laugh more, because it becomes a social expectation that will laugh along. Whenever you hear someone else laughing, even if you don't know what the joke is, sometimes you'll still laugh, right? Because it's social pressure. And they use that, especially, it's not quite as bad in this pilot episode, but if you listen to any episode, I think after this, it gets really obvious. Like, I've been wanting for a while to just grab an episode and just see what the actual levels are in like Premiere or on an EQ, just because I think they are outrageous, because I get so mad when the laugh track is like breaking my eardrums. It's very frustrating.
Yeah.
It's a good cheat. I'm not going to lie. It works, but I also, get irritated as, a viewer.
No, that's annoying. Like, especially when it drowns out, because it was drowning out Phoebe when she was telling her story.
Yeah, totally. But as far as notes, that's all I got, man.
I'm still at a 6.
Yeah, I was gonna ask.
Yeah, I liked it better than I thought I would, for sure. It was still pretty, nostalgic to see everybody.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it was like, there are other pilots that I'm more excited about. I know soon we're gonna do Seinfeld. Very excited about that, because I love that show. And I have never seen the pilot, I don't think. Maybe I have, and I just don't remember. But very excited about that one.
Same.
So you can't follow Cheers with much, honestly. Yeah, I do. I love that you brought up cinematography, because I do like all the angles they took, and they cut a whole lot. Which just keeps it interesting and like fresh every moment. There's a new thing, but it is really the acting. I think just those characters are just fantastic.
Yeah, and that's one of those things that I feel like most pilots struggle. Even shows that go on to be really, really successful normally have a first pilot. The pilot, the performances aren't quite locked in yet. Even shows that I really love, like Futurama, if you go listen to or go watch that first episode, the performances are garbage. The writing is still pretty good, but the performances are terrible. But the performances in this pilot are absolutely fantastic. Like, everyone's really nails, and they're on it, and they're in character. And I wouldn't say the difference between Ross in episode 1 is all that different from Ross in episode 15 of this season, in terms of performance. Like, they're all really well dialed in, and other than some basic writing stuff, I don't think much changes. And so big kudos on the casting. Like, I think that's Avi Kauffman, who's just a absolute phenom in
so good
Hollywood. So I'm
awesome.
I think I'm about the same with you. If I could break it up into chunks, I would say for the first 3.5 to 4 seasons, I'm at like a 10. And then from season 5 until the end, I'm at like a 6. Same, other than the one episode I think they do amazing. The best episode of Friends is the game show, and I think that happens in season 5. So they still have some haymakers in there, but it is a big downward trajectory, I think. But hey,
I just never really related to it very much. So
yeah, and definitely get that. I'm sure people will disagree, and I'll get some hate mail because this show.
Hopefully,
yeah, I'll take some hate mail at this point.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, what are you going to recommend this week?
I'm going to recommend Ozark. If you haven't seen that show, definitely go watch it. Jason Bateman is in it, and season 3 is out. Fantastic.
Cool. I mean, you did recommend that on episode 13, just FYI.
That's what I knew I had, but I'm gonna recommend it again because the new season 3 is out.
Season 3, okay.
Yeah. I was looking through what we had recommended, and I was like, well, I didn't recommend it last 3 weeks, and I know it just came out. Weird. Okay. So yeah, I'll do Ozark season 3.
Cool. I originally had one lined up, and then I just started watching this new show on Hulu yesterday that I am absolutely enthralled with. Normal People. It's
I've seen that. I haven't seen it, but
short drama on Hulu. I think it's a limited series. I don't think it's going to be this, recurring thing, which should signal that it's really, really good. Like, this is going to be a great show. But it's the story of this guy and this girl in Ireland. And I think it takes place at the start in this little town called Galway, even though the town isn't heavily featured. But it's a town I got to visit last year when I was in Ireland. And so it's been fascinating to kind of watch these characters come together, and it's drama. It's heavily dramatic. It's definitely not safe for work. There's sex scenes that, honestly, it's some of the best sex scenes I've seen made. And it's from and it's another one of those things, man, whenever the credits hit and it said directed by Lenny Abramson, I was like, freaking A, why didn't I know about this? He directed Room, which I absolutely love.
Amazing. Wow.
He just knows how to find the right story and how to tell the story. And so check out Normal People on Hulu. And so
awesome.
Stay tuned for next week. We're going to tackle How I Met Your Mother and the pilot episode for that. So tune in for that, and we'll kind of compare and contrast with that against Friends and Cheers. And then after that, we're going to do Seinfeld, as Todd said. And that'll probably wrap up this stint of sitcoms.
Cool.
But I think we'll come back to this idea later if we get behind again. It's really fun. I feel like I'm learning a lot, and it's a good change of pace, I think.
Yeah, agreed.
So don't forget to subscribe, review us on iTunes, and drop us a note if there's something you want us to talk about, and maybe there's a specific style or thing that you want us to kind of point out. Feel free to do that. Maybe we don't talk enough about wardrobe or whatever. And you can leave a note on this episode at thepestlepodcast.com/friends.
And we'll leave you with a quote of the day from A.A. Milne from Winnie the Pooh. This is interesting. Nice. All right. Piglet sidled up to Pooh from behind. Pooh? He whispered. Yes, Piglet? Nothing, said Pooh, taking Pooh's paw. I just wanted to be sure of you. My heart. That makes me want to go hug my son.
I love that because it's a conversation really about nothing, just about connection.
Yeah.
And obviously that's kind of the heart of friendship. the best of friends, add to you for sure. But it's also just nice to know, hey, they're both there.
There.
Oh,
I don't have much to add to that. That's one of the best quotes we've done in a long time.
Yeah,
From Winnie
agreed.
the Pooh. I think we should maybe do Calvin and Hobbes at some point. They have some good ones.
I'll work that in.
Yeah, my son loves Calvin and Hobbes. We read their books. We have books of Calvin and Hobbes, and we read them all the time.
Your son is totally a Calvin.
Oh, dude.
Oh my God.
He had his favorite thing in the whole world is, he calls him Tiggy, and it's a stuffed bobcat. I'm not lying. And he's had him since he was 3 years old. His grandfather, my father-in-law, bought it for him randomly at Bass Pro Shop. And he loved the crap out of him. He broke his nose off once because he has like this hard nose. I had to super glue it back on. His hair's falling out already. Yeah, he's had him for 4 years.
That's
Tiggy is the
awesome.
most special thing to him in the entire world. It's
That's
crazy. He's
amazing.
totally Calvin. Good point. All right, guys. Well, thank you for joining us. One day we're gonna do an episode under 30 minutes. One day.
I believe.
Maybe not anytime soon, but one day. Thanks for joining us, guys. Join us next week. We're covering How I Met Your Mother, the pilot. Looking forward to that one. Until then, I'm Todd.
I'm Wes.
Go watch some movies.